I believe we have all been there, losing to a habit of failing to hit your goals and the weight of disappointment that follows. Everyone has failures, and I can assure you we all fall down. But what truly defines us isn't how often we fail, but how many times we rise. And in today's episode, I want to encourage you and help you to keep getting back up and trying again. Denzel Washington actually said it best: fall down 7 times, get up 8. I love how he says it, and we'll share a clip at the end, so stick around till then. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 9 to 5 job. I'm your host, Raymond, and today we want to talk about getting back up. Whether you have failed or whether you have failed to hit a target, we all have those moments in life where things are either not going the way we expected them to, or it is just a small setback that, could be mentally disturbing. So, in this episode, I won't be talking about how to avoid failure because I don't believe there is an actual way to avoid failure. Actually, I know someone that I think it's a quote from Scott Galloway that said, success comes off the back of a shit ton of failure. Yeah, so essentially, it's just that if you want to be successful, or if you are working towards something, you have big goals, or you are just simply trying to get up at 5 every day, sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes you're going to fail to wake up at 5. Sometimes you're going to fail to hit that monthly saving target. Sometimes you're going to fail to be there for your family when you need to be. And those are like actual things that disturb us, that when you miss out on something that is important to you, or a goal that you set and you committed to, it distracts you mentally and puts you off. So in today's episode, it's not about avoiding, but rather about getting back up and just keep going. Be it failure, be it mistakes, it's all about getting back up. So to break down this concept, I want to use a tennis analogy because personally I love tennis. I am a lawn tennis player. So tennis, for those of you that don't know the sport is just two guys or four, depending on which kind of setup you are playing. So it's just literally half a court and a net that goes up to around waist level or just below that. So you have one side and the second side, and these two sides just hit the ball back and forth. And we have our own way that we count the points, but all you need to know, it's a fun game. And if you want to know a bit of history about it, it's a game that actually came from, I think, the 12th century. And actually, yes, it was invented from a French handball game in the 12th, and then it was reinvented in the 19th century in England, and hence we came up with these tournaments. Actually, the oldest tournament would be Wimbledon, that is played in England on those grass clay courts. Sorry, in England, that is played on grass courts. If you've seen those tennis matches that are played on green fields, let me call them fields, but they are courts. So played on green courts, hence the Wimbledon tournaments, the US Open, and all these major Australian Open, French Open that you might have come across. Those are all tournaments that invite players to come and participate. So tournaments can actually have a total of 128 players in the first round, and they compete in a knockout, round 1, round 2, round 3, and then depending on how many rounds they are, when they get to 8 players, they play quarters, and then 4 players, semis, and then the final is played by 2 players, and ultimately there is just one person gets to win. And let me say, out of the 128, the 127 for that week or for that tournament are losers. So it's a very binary game. Like, you all come into the tournament, and if you don't lift the trophy at the end, you're considered to have lost. And that is why we have greats like Federer, Novak Djokovic, we have Billie Jean King, we have Serena Williams, we have Nadal, and so many other players that are now coming up, Alcaraz. But the point is, if you are, let me say, a non-seeded player, or you don't usually make it to the final, you're going to be losing every week, or you're going to be losing more times than you can count, because these guys are on tour for the greater part of the year, playing almost every week. So if you have a tournament every week and you don't win a tournament, trust me, you are failing every day, and it is very hard on the players. Why I thought to use this analogy was actually I was watching a Netflix series called Breakpoint. I've always been a tennis fan and I've watched the games, but I didn't know how much these players actually like struggle on court and off court mentally, and to try to get themselves in that winning mentality on the back of losing a game, or losing, let me say, like if you lost in a semi-final game of a Grand Slam, you are just one step away from being in the final, and maybe half a step more from being an open champion. You get it? It's a huge accomplishment, and not just because of the money, but I mean, you get to write your name down in history as a winner of, let me say, the US Open. If you get to win US Open or Wimbledon, your name is there among the greats, and it's every tennis player's dream to win a Grand Slam. So getting back to how these players struggle mentally. When you are playing a tennis game, every point counts. When you lose a point, you need to make sure you talk to yourself. You need to make sure that you are ready to play the next point and play it hard and play to win. Because if you don't play to win, your opponent is definitely playing you to win. It's a very competitive sport. When you lose one game, you are off to play the next tournament, and you need to have reset. You need to realize that yes, I have lost, but I need to play the next tournament and win it. I need to try to do my best. I need to try. I actually need to get back up. I need to get myself out of the losing state and back into the right mind frame to make sure I win the next game. So, what does tennis have to do with life? I do have to caveat that life is not a zero-sum game like tennis is, whereby only one person wins. It is very possible for all of us to win at life, and it's all about having that abundance mindset. But the mentality that is needed to be successful is very familiar. There isn't any hack or five-step process to avoid failure. Your path to success is going to be littered with a whole lot of failure. You will fail in one thing, you will fail in small things, you will fail in big things. But how you handle those setbacks is what sets you apart from the others. And I want to share what I have learned playing on court and watching some of the greats like Novak Djokovic play. So, one, this whole concept of not beating yourself up. When tennis players make a mistake or get frustrated during a match, they don't let it become self defeating. You need to find a way to release that frustration without letting it turn into a downward spiral. Because when you are, let me say, mid set and you are playing someone, they are hitting hard and you are hitting it into the net and you're hitting it outside. And let me say you hit three consecutive balls outside. If you start to beat yourself up, trust me, you're going to start to play careful. So now when you start playing careful, you're going to find that you're hitting balls short and your opponent can easily attack them, or you are hitting them into the net. You go down that downward spiral, which in most cases your opponent can feel it, and they go on the offensive. When they see that you are now trying to play careful, they'll be like, yes, now I have them in the corner. Let me go at it. And that's simply how life is. If life sees that you are not taking the initiative, that you are backing down, it will come at you. It is the same thing in tennis. You do not need to beat yourself up. You actually need to speak to yourself like you are cheering for you. You will see players on court be like, come on, let's go. And speaking to themselves, and they'll tell themselves, come on. They'll tell themselves, let's go. They'll tell themselves, you can do this. That is the kind of speech and the kind of mentality you should approach these other entities in life. Second is to pause and reset. One thing players like, I'll use the example of Djokovic, because players like Djokovic, what they do after they misstep or they hit a ball out or you'll see him visibly relax. You'll see him take a pause, take deep breaths. You'll see them take their time to serve, because you have an allowance of around 25 seconds to serve. So you take your time to serve, you take your time to get back on court, you take your time to tune out all the noise and get your mindset right. This quick reset allows them to come back balanced for the next point. When you slip up with the habits you are trying to break, give yourself time to reset emotionally. I mean, I don't remember how Mark Manson said it, but it was something about motivation and procrastination being an emotional thing, because when you don't want to do something, that is a feeling, and feelings are all about emotions. So when you are trying to break a bad habit, or when you are trying to, let me say, stop procrastinating, or when you are trying to get up, there is a feeling behind that. So you need to give yourself time to reset emotionally. When you lose a point, you will feel some anger in a tennis game, you will feel some anger, you will feel some frustration, but you need to give yourself that time to pause, reset, and come back to your baseline of emotion. And then you play the point, and you play it to win. Three is to celebrate the small wins. No matter how small or wobbly your progress is, celebrate it. You'll see players celebrate a ball that the opponent has hit out without him actually, hitting a passing shot or hitting quite a good forehand or backhand. No. All he is doing is celebrating that the opponent has hit the ball out. Why? It is his point. Why? He needs to give himself positive momentum. You need to celebrate those wins even when they don't directly come from you. That positive momentum carries you forward. In tennis, each win brings you to tougher competition. I'll give you an example. When you are a seeded player, let me say you are in top 10 and you are playing maybe a world ranked 500 or 150, and you win that game, you need to celebrate that. Why? When you're playing someone that is seeded 150 in round one, the big chance is you're going to play someone that is seeded maybe number 10 in round four, or in quarters, or in semis, or in finals. I mean, it gets tougher as people are knocked out, and that is simply how life is. When, as you grow up, you realize that things get tougher. They don't get easier. The higher you go, the harder it becomes, is literally the statement that comes to mind. So when you get a small win, and let me say you manage to break a habit for 3 days, you need to celebrate that. Why? It gives you positive momentum. It gives you a reference of a level of happiness that you attained from giving something up, or from working towards something. And your mind draws this correlation to this positive thing that has happened, and you feeling positive about it, and says, oh, you know what? I think we need to do this. I think Raymond feels happy when you do this, because trust me, your brain is always trying to make its host. Now I sound like an alien or something, but it is trying to make, it will always look for that dopamine, it will always look for those positive feelings. So when you start to celebrate your progress, it carries you forward. Give yourself a pat on the back, because that momentum will carry you to day 4, day 9, day 100, and will do you far more than beating yourself up or not giving yourself time to reset and say, okay, you know what? I had a good streak of 3 days. I missed out one day. I missed out 2 days. But you know what? Tomorrow we start again. Tomorrow we wake up at 5. Tomorrow we read 2 pages, 10 pages of this book. I don't give up. I keep getting back up, because that is what I want. This is the goal I have set. This is who I want to be. And I will not let my habits deny me that. Period. So what I'm trying to say is that in life and in tennis, persistence and patience is everything. There is always another day, there is another chance, and there is always another opportunity to be better. You need to remember that when you lose to a habit or fall short of your goal, that's not the end. That shouldn't stop you. Just pause, reset, and then get back out there. Do not beat yourself up, and celebrate the wins. Always celebrate the wins. So as I promised, here is a clip from Denzel Washington on getting back up.
Easy? If it was easy, there'd be no Kerry Washington. If it was easy, there'd be no Taraji Henson. If it were easy, there'd be no Octavia Spencer. But not only that, if it were easy, there'd be no Viola Davis. If it were easy, there'd be no Michael T. Williamson, no Stephen McKinley Henderson, no Russell Hornsby. If it were easy, there'd be no Denzel Washington. So, keep working, keep striving, never give up, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. So, keep moving, keep growing, keep learning. See you at work.
So to everyone, thank you for listening and keep pushing forward. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who could use a reminder to keep trying, and make sure to subscribe for more. See you in the next episode.